Great. There we go.
Absolutely. And welcome everyone. Can you tell what we're going to talk about? Welcome to the 235 session. Welcome to AGATE. It has been an incredible conference, and we have our co-chair Jennifer Park here on this session. And Jennifer Park, you just deserve all the accolades and praise possible. This has been a fantastic conference. Thank you so much for having me. And this session is all about finding meaningful ways to assess student learning, which is literally what we do. We teach and then we need to assess. And the issue for me is that I tend to forget how important that assessment piece is, but I have figured out a way to remember it. And that is what I'm sharing with you today. So welcome to How Good Was That? Meaningful Ways to Assess Student Learning. I had help with these slides. Don't think that I'm this, yeah, I had help. Everybody should have help. I am Dr. Christine Dietz, the Associate Director of the Jody Mahoney Center for Gifted Education at the University of Arkansas at Little Rock. And thank you for joining me for this session on How Good Was That? We're going to take a meaningful look at ways to assess student learning. The handout for this session can be found at the session link along with my contact information. But again, I'm so happy that you are here. So let's get started. Yeah, how good was that? Receiving feedback is so important. And normally feedback is given to people or customers, or in our case, students, in some evaluative way. Feedback is a sign, such as a clean plate where a piece of pie used to be, or it could be smiles on people's faces exiting a movie theater, or it could be a single phrase written in the margin of a paper, such as good or awesome or way to go. But evaluators ask, how good was that for you? Certainly cooks hang on to every word offered by the recipient of a meal. Everyone wants to know that their efforts were well received, the product worked, the gift was appreciated, or whatever has just occurred had a positive result. If we consider movies, meals, conferences, a present, and vacations to be good, well, what chance does a spelling or a math quiz have? How can we treat our assessment pieces so that we can feel the same high level of satisfaction with the results? In the entire universe of all things accessible, how can we approach assessment with our students so that we can gather the most meaningful information and then use that information to create new learning goals and next steps for students? Well, lucky for us, there is a bright spot in the universe where we can actually go for answers, where the step-by-step process is clearly articulated with colorful arrows and printed signs. Yeah, it's Build-A-Bear. Now check this out. And I'm not here to like sell it. I'm just like, oh my gosh, Build-A-Bear has the same steps for quality assessment. Here we go. In this session, we will identify effective and fair assessment practices to improve instruction in order to advance student learning and growth, justify how and why students must apply feedback from assessments, identify strategies for student self-assessment and how students can become their own assessors, and discuss strategies for teachers and how they can self-assess effectively. Finally, assess learning patterns at a micro and macro level. Thank you, Build-A-Bear, for showing us the way. Just like the steps to building the perfect bear, and I've got one over here, and I've got the stuffings of one over here. Educators can build better assessment when they follow the same steps of choose me, hear me, stuff me, stitch me, fluff me, dress me, name me, and take me home. Teachers have multiple options and choices when it comes to selecting appropriate assessment pieces. Do we want the assessment to help us measure student learning progress, determine specific learning goals for students? How about appropriate learning options or levels of rigor? Can assessments identify student skill strength and needs? Yeah, of course they can. And how about, can they help us figure out what students know or what they need to learn? Yes, assessments can help us do that. The trick is to be very purposeful in choosing the assessment. When building a bear, you can include a sound bite, whether it's recorded, "I love you," so that your child can hear your voice every time they press a little certain something, or a silly sound effect. This makes me laugh every time, like a giggle. Oh, well, that sound, when activated, is meant to summarize the intent or purpose of the bear. Assessment has the exact same purpose. It's a sounding piece that measures an effort or ability at the exact moment of time. So when choosing an assessment, it's very important to be cognizant of the voice that the assessment will have in the student's learning process. Will this assessment be part of the process that leads to conclusions about student learning or needs? Will this assessment be a voice for the student's goals or learning objectives? Will it be individualized so that I can learn about a particular student's needs? Yeah. Certain strategies can produce strong student voices, such as journals, portfolios, demonstrations. Stronger still, assessments allow students to be heard through performance-based products such as writing a piece of art, performing a play, creating a piece of music, or even oral presentations. I have a bag of stuff because it's like amazing. They have that is the stuff machine, and it's full of this lovely soft fluff, but it's the stuffing that goes inside the bear. So what does that have to do with assessment? Well, we want to stuff our students with the same self-confidence to assess themselves. They need to be able to say whether this was good, that I'm making progress, or I'm not making enough progress, or here are my challenges. So ultimately, with Stuff Me, we want to teach students how to self-assess, how to self-advocate, and to teach students how to apply that feedback effectively. We can't just say, okay, you got this wrong. That is not helping them. They will move on so fast, not even having a chance to correct or to learn from their mistakes, and then making sure that they don't make the same cognitive or skill errors in the future. And for teachers, we can develop that same habit of having students evaluate their own progress and practice while making decisions based on their conclusions. We can also help students effectively apply feedback from assessments in ways that support students' ability to reflect on their own programs, skillfully enable students to use assessment as a tool to take responsibility for their own learning. Yeah, in other words, help them take some responsibility from us and some ownership on their part. Let's look at some examples. This is an example that we might see at the secondary level, high school, middle school for sure. The learning objective is, how were US citizens of Japanese descent treated during World War II? In the pre-test, and of course you can see what the student wrote, the student records this, the student wrote, citizens' rights are protected by the US Constitution and law. So nothing to see here, move along. But under the I got it, oh, I understand how US citizens of Japanese descent were treated during World War II, we start, they start building evidence and understanding about this, like, I've got this, okay. Events such as the bombing of Pearl Harbor caused US citizens of Japanese descent to be treated differently. during World War II. So you can almost track their thinking and the change in their thinking. That'd be an upper level example. In the elementary example, this was teacher created. It doesn't come out of a workbook. It comes out of a lesson that I was, a lesson in a unit that I was teaching the children. It is one learning objective. And then I piled on some other things. In other words, this is a tool that the student and I are going to use as we work through this unit. And it accomplishes a couple things for the student and me. And let's go through this. This is an example of a grade 2 student using self-assessment to understand her learning progress during a unit on The Watcher, which is a book about Jane Goodall. The self-assessment page is not a one and done. It is a page in a notebook that the student can refer to often and record the evidence of how she is meeting the unit's learning objectives. For example, part 1, which is up there on top, part 1 features a statement on her from her pre-test, which, by the way, is going to be the same statement on her post-test. I have to use the same measuring stick, right, to see how they learned. It doesn't help me if I change the way that I measure learning growth. I want to know this, and I will measure growth and change by using the same measuring stick at the end. So the statement is, I know why Jane Goodall is an important scientist. On her pre-test, the student didn't even try to guess. She just wrote, I don't know. And half the time I get IDK, which I guess means I don't know, but they didn't know. So, however, after instruction, the student made a prediction of how she will measure up on her post-test with the same question. She indicated that she will have a clear response and clear understanding, and also noted that she had evidence, supporting evidence to her understanding of why Jane Goodall was an important scientist. So as we went through the unit, she gathered evidence. She noted the source of her evidence, where she found her information. In this case, she indicated the source of her knowledge was a book, and then she recorded her supporting evidence. And finally, in the bottom part, performed a self-check on her writing, because writing in this particular class was atrocious, and I wanted them to check themselves before I started putting happy faces and frowny faces all over papers. So it was just a simple yes or no. Whether they used complete sentences, whether this person did punctuation correctly and started with a capital letter. This could be your study guide, but more importantly, it provides me with a roadmap through her thinking. I can provide support and reinforcement along the way if I can see where she is headed. In thinking about where this bear ends, or the limits to what I'm teaching, or what the student is being held accountable for, assessments help us understand the limitations of certain assessment pieces. Assessments can also put up barriers, right? For example, some forms of assessment, such as those with written responses or heavy reliance on text, can be problematic for our ELL students or twice exceptional students. Identifying barriers to student learning early on will prevent walls going up between the student and learning process. You can also think of Stitch Me as a way to close the gap. A well-planned assessment that offers a variety of ways to demonstrate knowledge or skill will provide a better picture of where that student is in the learning process. The Fluff Me stage in Build-A-Bear is literally you take a brush and you make the hair stand out on the bear. But what a fun way to think about assessment. So let's polish our assessment pieces by considering the following. Collaborate with a full range of professional colleagues to ensure that the students with gifts have access to curriculum and pathways that are going to show mastery. Doesn't work if it's just in your room. We have to help this translate to other classrooms. So we want to assist general education colleagues in creating, accommodating, and modifying assessment tools to ensure access to appropriate curriculum and accurate reflection of the progress of students. We need to be able to assess how well accommodations functions for our gifted children. Oh, the expensive part for my wallet, not for assessment, not for teachers, but it's got to match, right? Shoes, dress, skirt, tiara is got to match. So this is the step where the GT teachers and coordinators make sure everything matches for our GT kids. We want to match assessment techniques to our students' developmental levels. We want to match courses and programs of study with student strengths and according to student needs. And then let's share the good news. We want to conduct workshops and training sessions to keep our staff abreast of advances in student programs and student services and how to assess those, the successes in those programs. I'm so glad Stacy's on this call because we are both national board facilitators, and we deal with this like all year long and helping teachers literally wrap their minds around the difference between summative and formative assessments, formal and informal assessments. And everyone really thinks they've got a good idea of this. Your school board members think that they understand formative and summative assessments, but let's just, just for the fact that we're doing Build-A-Bear and we're going to give it a name, let's just run down some of the qualifiers for a summative and a formative assessment piece. The summative, of course, is the whole bear. It is the whole picture. It's the summative piece is what we give in the end. It sums up the learning for the student. It counts for a grade. If it counts for a grade, you got a summative piece. It measures learning according to the goals of the lesson or the unit. It indicates student understanding and the progress they made toward those learning goals. A summative assessment should offer clear and accurate results. No guessing, no inferences on the part of the teacher. Either it is there or it is not. And finally, a summative assessment allows teachers to reflect on the effectiveness, about their teaching. If everybody misses the third question, or only 20% of the people of your students get the third question correct, there's something the matter with the way you presented the information. As a teacher, I've got to go back and examine how did I present and did I even present the information on that's contained in the third question. So it is very important that we take a look at the overall results and turn that mirror backwards, back right to us. Key to a great summative is that post-test. And it tells me what the student learns, and it helps me set those new learning goals for my students based on the results, not just what's next in the chapter. It's what I have to cover or skip or build upon as we start class the very next day. So for a formative assessment, that's me, the manager, making an assessment. When you're the manager, you are managing all learning that takes place in your classroom. And right now, I got a lot to manage. It's your job to test the lesson before anyone else does. It's like the cook in the kitchen tasting the soup before it's delivered to the customer. I want to have lots of samples and lots of pings and lots of thumbs up and lots of Quizlets before we go in for our final game. With formative assessments, it's the teacher's roadmap and checklists that guides us through the lessons of any learning experience in any circumstance where the students are responsible for learning the skill or content. Key to a great formative assessment is that pre-test. The power of formative assessment begins with the pretest. A formative assessment does not for a grade because it informs me it's so valuable for me, what I'm going to learn. And then for the students to know what they don't know. And together we can set their learning goals. Let's identify the gaps in learning. Let's create a plan and let's go for it. Sometimes if you're lucky enough, it's like version A of the summative. You can use that. You want it to be designed to be as informative as possible. To give you as much information about your students as you need. So if your students are also responsible for punctuation, make sure that there's information, there's ways to evaluate that punctuation. Then you're going to use the results to construct self-assessment guides for students, with students. It tells me what that student already knows and what we need to learn and how I need to construct my lessons and how to group my students. Feedback is aimed at helping students achieve those learning goals. Examples of formative assessments would be journals, learning logs, a one-pager, which is a summary of also like what I designed. It has all sorts of great pockets to record information. A directed summary could be a reflection, a concept map, anecdotal records, diagnostic tests, and Quizlets or quizzes. We use exit tickets. I've used exit tickets, but I have learned to change it up a bit. Thank you to my middle schoolers, because, and it might just be me, but whenever I pulled out the old exit ticket, okay, kids, let's fill out your exit ticket. What that really was a signal to the students that learning was over for the day so that they can focus on their conversations and their peers, certainly not what I taught that day. And the backpacks are on and they're kind of like edging out of their seats if not lined up at the door. So I switched it up a bit. An exit ticket in my room is actually a pre-test question that I asked a content or skill question related for tomorrow's lesson. Like, why is Jane Goodall an important scientist? That's my lesson for tomorrow. I want to know what they know today. That sets me up for really great, rich content for tomorrow. That's my exit ticket now. I use it to for feedback for the lesson, feedback so I can create my groups and adjust my level of instruction. If they already know something, there's no sense in me covering it. So I no longer use an exit ticket to gather feedback on today's lesson. Instead, I use an excite ticket. What? I want to know, they give me feedback on what did they read that was meaningful to them? What did they share when they were in their little groups or their think, pair, shares? I want to know what they heard that was meaningful or interesting to them. And I want to know what they're wondering about so I can help build on that curiosity for the next day. So I use an excite ticket. I don't have a hard copy of my excite ticket. That is, I've got it in other places, but I think you get the idea, right? And if you need a hard copy, just email me and we'll figure out how you want to have it. Yeah, maybe in a PowerPoint slide that you can share or post. You have this in your resource handout. These are, I've been Googling effective assessment ideas for 10, 15 years. These are my top favorite sites. You have the links to these on the handout for this session. My favorite one is that 60 tools. It takes me through the whole year. I don't have to, my goal for myself is don't have to reinvent anything. These are amazing reminders of clever assessments that are meaningful and get the results that I want to have, that feedback that I want, and it informs the kids engage, so it's absolutely fabulous. So I wanted to share those with you today. Our next step in building the bears, of course, we're going to take it home, but for assessment, what that means for us is that it is a way to internalize what in fact has happened and what has been learned. It's the understanding we carry with us, not only at the end of this lesson, but to the next classroom and for many of our students to the next grade level or school configuration, from elementary to middle, from middle to high and beyond. We want self-assessment, self-reflection to be a lifelong skill, quite frankly. And for teachers, reflecting on what just happened in our lesson or a unit is absolutely critical. I'm a huge fan of colored Post-it notes. The green would be the names of the students who satisfactorily passed that skill or showed mastery and control over that skill. So the yellow would be the names of the kids who don't quite have it yet. And then I would keep it, on my private secret board. I would don't want other kids to see this. This is for my use, my reflection. And if I have a part in this that I can fix, I will fix it. And quite frankly, teacher self-reflection is not for the weak. You just have to be brave. You just have to go for it. I love to use that circle technique that's featured on the right. That would be like if we were doing Socratic seminar, or the talking circle or fishbowl, whatever configuration you like to use. But every time a student speaks, I would draw my pencil to their dot. And then the next student, I would move my pencil to that dot. After about 5 minutes, if I have a dot that hasn't been touched, then that is the student who is either sitting back or being very reflective, whatever. I need to get them in the game. We need to practice our speaking skills. So I will either have them pose the next question or call on them for the next response. But there's all sorts of great ways and tools that we can use to identify trends, the learning trends that are going on in our classroom. Now I'll leave this one for you to consider. On this slide, you see 4 students. And this graph shows their pre-test, that's in the aqua, and their post-test, that's in the light blue, and then their project. And I'm happy that all students showed growth between their pre-test and post-test, but upon reflection, what do you think I need to do? What do you think what do we need to do? What do we think we need to understand? How can we assess or discuss these results? What do we want to know?
I think Becca already knew a lot of this information, and she was maybe bored by the time you got to the project.
Thank you, Carol. I'd have to check that out, wouldn't we? Any other comments or observations?
Maybe
Another
I didn't
idea
read
could
the
be that the
directions.
influence had parent help.
They did. Got to check that out.
Ira showed a lot of growth.
I think that Becca is sitting back feeling self-satisfied, like I already know this and I don't have to do anything.
I just think she didn't read the directions on the project.
I
The
think she's
beautiful
feeling-
Benita, probably right, dear. Yeah, the first thing I go for, the first thing I ask is, honey, did you have the tag board? Did mom get to Walmart to buy the, what is it, 50 cents now, or is $1 to get the tag board? Always have more, the poster board, always have in the class. I know you do, because you're all just awesome teachers, but always have the supplies in case somebody doesn't have it. So, but something's going on with Becca. She came in fully loaded. She probably checked out during instruction, probably helped somebody else. But something's going on at home, maybe lack of sleep, maybe she's going between houses. Something's going on. I need to ask. And you all are so good. You picked up on that immediately. Anything else? Anything we want to say about Tyra or how's Kyle doing? Are we happy with Kyle and Maddie?
Christine, I'm concerned that the project maybe doesn't exactly match what I was trying to measure.
Oops. You know, I'll fix that next year. That's why I became a teacher, so I can just fix it next time. Excellent, excellent, excellent ideas. Sure, but that graph is just that's not anything your computer spits out. That is something that you would have to do on your own and all the extra time that you have, so that you can look back and look back before you can move forward with the kiddos. So exactly, beautiful, well done. Oh, my parents. Okay, so we, you know, because we know how to practice self-preservation. Send those rubrics home before the project starts as an effective way to keep parents informed and let them know how something's going to be assessed. This way, mom will not get the B. Hopefully mom reads the rubric. But the last thing you want to do is give mom a B for the project. And think about what tools do you use? We can put it in the chat. What tools do you use to keep your parents engaged? They're probably electronic at this point. Anybody use like a text function? Remind, thank you. Remind, oh yeah, great. Google Classroom. You get push as much information out there as possible. And then when the parents come back and say, well, I didn't know the project was due today, you catch your breath, right? Hold your face. And then show them how to access that information on their phone. Weekly emails with rubrics attached. That is Sarah Caroline Halford out of Fayetteville, a proud GT student from the Little Rock area. We are so proud of Sarah Caroline. She is living the dream.
Yeah, she said you called her. She felt called out, Dr. Dates, when you were saying about the exit ticket.
Oh, girl, well, I have changed. She says, I had Caroline in my seminar class, so she can probably see my growth as a product of my reflection. Oh, you are, Sarah Caroline's amazing. And I had Carol Henthorne in the classes. You know, but we're all just good friends. We've all been friends forever. So in this session, what did we do? Oh my goodness, we discussed the steps of Build-A-Bear, which are the same great step we can use to construct great assessment for our students. Choose me, hear me, stuff me, stitch me, fluff me, dress me, name me, and take me home. Y'all are wonderful. Chat, but let's just open up our mics. I don't think there's just too many. There's my little, that was my experiment. It cost me a bloody fortune. Don't go in there.
Try having a birthday party with all those bears.
Oh, gosh. Oh no, actually, it was just a wonderful process. But I mean, I just about fell down when I saw the same steps for Build-A-Bear. I said, my gosh, that's kind of like what we do.
I really like that Excite ticket they were talking about too.
Do you know, and I use that because my parents, you know, and I still work with K-12 students, and every parent, doesn't matter what grade level, the parents say, you know, and I teach like seminar. Who doesn't love seminar? Everything's wonderful that's going on in seminar, but kids will tell you Nothing's going on. So I use that Excite ticket just to force that conversation with them. And they stop thinking about leaving my room and start reflecting on what happened. And that tends to stick with them a little more. Well, a lot more.
Yeah.
What excites them about, yeah, just changing that word just a little bit. So great, use it. And the other revelation was to use the exit ticket. That's fine, they can exit, but I want to know what they know about my lesson tomorrow. That's helped a great deal as well.
I think that sounds awesome.
Yeah.
And I need to do more of that self-assessment for the kids. Well, and on myself, but for the kids, because I have some that are just lazy and they want to get done as quickly as possible so they can find an Among Us game to play on their computer when they think I'm not looking. Yeah.
Don't blame them.
Ugh.
But that self-assessment piece really gives them ownership. And I'm telling you, Carol, it is Carol Ann. I've always known it's Carol Ann. It is such a source of pride then when they can take control of that learning. And it's their study guide going into you can even use those, at the upper levels for AP, and I'm sure they do. There's so much out there, but helping the kids identify what they don't know just empowers them.
Mm.
Yeah.
Well, I recently found something that I've not done before, but I've decided to implement. It's called a project post-mortem. And it's like they have to not only evaluate what they learned on the project, but they also have to evaluate how well they worked with each other, how well they used their time, and basically, their work ethic. So I'm going to see how that goes.
Regina, do you use that in your AP classes?
I am starting it. I recently found it because I had a rash of kids playing the blame game on a project we did here recently, and I was getting parent emails playing the blame game. And so I looked, I'm like, okay, what's a good way to evaluate and force them to evaluate, how they were using their time, how they worked together, and just for me to find the bad groups, basically, for another way.
Can not to put you on the spot, dear, but can you put your email in the chat? And
Yeah.
Is that something you can forward to? If they email you, you can assist with that?
Yeah, no problem. I also do a project status report throughout the project where the kids have
Right.
to tell me what did they do, who's in charge of what, and they tell me, are you in the green, which means you're good, you don't need my help, you feel like you got it? Are you in the yellow where you're having problems but you want to figure it out yourself? Or the red, which is holy crap, please help us now. It's the holy
Exactly.
crap button.
I would add one more thing to that. As the teacher, I'd say, show me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll say, show me the evidence.
And that's
I'm not into letting kids just, self-assess without evidence anymore.
Well, there's a question at the bottom that says, okay, like, where are you at? What have you accomplished? And they have to list like what they've already got done in the criteria. And that has generally helped pretty well. And also they have to take responsibility, because if you tell me you're in the green, then I don't think you need help getting anything. So if you come at the end of the project and say, oh, well, we didn't know, I'm like, okay, well, you put yourself in the green. And I can show mama, well, they said they were in the green. They had their evidence that they were in the green. So why are they saying that now? Because I've had a lot of incidents with AP where parents come charging in, at the 11th hour, even though I've been emailing them saying, well, why does my baby have this grade? And I had one parent, I had to pull 40 pages of documentation proving that I had done nothing wrong.
Whoa. You're not allowed to work harder than anybody else on this. That's all.
Well, no, I mean, that's just the worst case scenario. That's only happened once. And it took 40 pages of documentation cumulatively because she kept coming back. It was,
Oh my goodness, aren't you lucky?
yeah.
Goodness sakes.
But yeah, my email is at the bottom of my last comment. I'll send you the project status report form and the postmortem form if you would like it. Feel free to edit it as you please.
And, you know, we used to, we social studies teachers used to, you know, it was just out and out thievery. Take the science teachers' science fair check sheets, because they have got it down in terms of progress and evidence of how their experiments are rolling out. Just rip that thing completely off and put your name on it, right? I'm kidding, but take a look at their processes for documenting student process on a basically out of school project. So we really love our science teachers. They've got that documentation process down. But that the most powerful, and Stacy, please feel free to jump in on this. We've seen a lot of self-assessment. Jennifer Thomas is on the call as well. These incredibly gifted national board teachers that self-assess, empowering our students to self-assess has created some amazing results.
Yep, agreed. And it can be so little. It can be just a little quarter sheet of paper where they, you know, give a thumbs up, thumbs down, happy face, sad face, but it provides you so much information.
Well, I just want to thank you personally for being here, the last session of the day. I want to thank, I just want to personally also thank Jennifer Park for organizing an amazing conference and being our Sherpa through this session this afternoon. And I wish you all just an amazing rest of the day. Hope to see you at the awards ceremony this evening, where we honor our own. And what a great agate. So please provide our chair people with the feedback, what you liked, what we could do better. I certainly appreciate seeing you here today. That was a real treat for me. Thank you so much. Have a great rest of the conference.
Thank you, Dr. Dietz. This was a great session. Just a reminder, like she said, awards tonight starting at 6. And then after that, we have trivia with Jake Allen at 7. So definitely check that out. Thank you.
Hi, guys.